So the recording is now started. I'm Steve Wilson. I'm the Executive Director at the Park District. Joining us without their cameras on are a couple of members of my board serving here on the Board of Park Commissioners for the Wilmette Park District, Brian Abbott and Gordon Anderson. Joining us, the faces you see on the screen other than mine are all from the Lakota group, and trying to join us and having some technical difficulty is our architectural component of this, Andy Tanucci from Woodhouse Tanucci. So you'll see another name and or face pop in here at some point. But thank you for your time. I'm going to turn it over to Lakota to discuss with you kind of what we're talking about and hear from you different thoughts. Thank you.
Hi, Tom. Scott Ferris with Lakota Group. Excuse me, catching my breath here. Thanks for the time today. As Steve mentioned, I and my team at Lakota, Deb, Tom, and Kevin, who are somewhere all on the screen here. Andy will be joining hopefully shortly. We also, as a team, have Gewalt Hamilton and EcoVision, who are supporting our natural systems and our utilities and infrastructure analysis of the park areas. So we are putting together a master plan, rather an update to the master plan, really building upon all the good things that have happened at the park over recent years, as you've seen with the beach house and a number of other improvements. This is building upon that, setting a path forward, outlining objectives, goals, projects, and then ultimately putting them into a prioritization schedule and achievable reality. As I like to say, a master plan is only as good as you're able to do the things that are in it and that you have buy-in from the community. And so part of our master plan process, as all good planning processes, start with engaging at the level of leadership, at the level of staff, and then the community at large. And the first step before we go to a broader perspective of the community is to get with what I say our neighbors, make sure that we understand how they perceive the park, how they perceive the operations, how they perceive the character, the goods, the bads, and the uglies. We want to know it all. We want to understand what we could do better in this planning process, what we should be looking out to improve. We know that you're a significant stakeholder, significant entity, element in the neighborhood, an important one from a lot of different vantage points, serving many of the same constituents in the community. So our goal today is to hear from you how we can improve our park and how you see opportunities where we could collaborate together or meet your needs personally. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Would you like me to just
open conversation, Tom?
Okay. Well, I have a pretty long history. I don't know if you know, but I worked here in the 90s as the assistant manager. So I did work with the Park District. In fact, gosh, I just went blank on the woman's name that was running. She just retired. Shoot.
Holly?
Yes, yeah. So I worked with her back then and then returned here in 2017. I will tell you, I think the park is fantastic. It's a beautiful place. Actually, when I take a break in the afternoon, I go over there and I walk through the park sometimes. What I have noticed is between the 90s and now, it's exploded. The amount of people going to the park is astronomical. I think that's great in some ways. Other ways, it makes traffic incredibly difficult. On a beautiful summer day here, it's crazy getting around. And when you add to it, I think some of the difficulties, we have weddings on a weekend, and if it's good weather, man, there's staff can't even find any place to park. So I think parking is obviously been an issue. It's actually more of an issue now than it was back in the 90s. So I don't know if there's any way of addressing that. As you know, at times, you know, Mr. Wilson, that we do use the parking lot down there on occasion. We pay for it. It's, you know, nothing expensive because our parking is wholly inadequate, especially during a busy, nice summer day when all the street parking is taken up. So I think, honestly, that's probably the only thing that I think I see as an issue that's ongoing. the other thing I was hoping that sometime we can address is we did some long-range planning surveys starting in 2015 with our membership, and we've updated it as at the end of 2019. And one of the things that the members have brought up on several occasions is having some type of partnership with the park. In other words, possibly, kayaking, paddleboarding, chairs, towels, etc. I don't know if, Steve, if that's something that I would talk to you about in the future. I think it was brought up before, and there were maybe some concerns about members taking food and beverage down there, which will never happen because we don't want them to go down there with food and beverage. We want them to be up here and order the food and beverage. So I would make sure that happens somehow, because obviously that's how we're going to make a little money. So yeah, those are just a couple of things off the top of my head that possibly we could work through.
So I heard concern about parking, particularly throughout the neighborhood, and the kind of demand is overloaded on a nice weather day. And then for your big events, parties, rentals, I don't know so much on, I guess not paddle, because that's a seasonal wintertime thing. You're picking up some of that demand through an arrangement with the park in the main parking lot. Is that right, Steve?
Well, yes, but we also, I'm going to give you an example because, like I said, I have this long history where I can see what's transpired over a couple decades. We have valet pretty much, well, we haven't this year because of COVID, but we typically have valet almost every day. And we definitely have it. It's required whenever we have a wedding or a larger event. Those valet parkers, they have to have shuttles because they have to park so far away, literally sometimes a mile away, to get cars. When we have an event, I'm going to give you an example. One of them is the daddy-daughter dance, which has some connection to the park district, I think. That one's a struggle because last year we got it, I think, pretty good, or I mean in 2019. But there's a huge lineup down Lake Avenue, even past the light on the corner of Sheridan, because we have to, the valets have to go so far to park those cars. They're all coming all at the same time. What I think is funny is they pull up and the little girls, oh, let me put my shoes on, Dad. So it makes a few delays. So maybe I should put that in communication. Make sure your daughter has her shoes on before you pull up. But so it's really a struggle. I mean, I literally have to have sometimes 20 valet parkers and one or two people who do nothing but shuttle them. They follow them with the car, bring them back here. It's just, it really, I've been doing this for 30 years. This here, the parking here and our situation is the worst I've ever seen in any club I've been at. And I understand it's because of the popularity of the beach. I love the beach. I don't want anything to happen to it. I'm a big supporter of it. It's just, like I said, the parking is horrendous. And for us in the summer, as you know, Steve, sometimes we can't get the parking down there. So it's not only the park's full down there, the streets are all full. And then we're also going, actually 2 years ago, I had to use the parking lot of the Baker School down the street? That's kind of a ways away. And I had to have 3 or 4 shuttles at the time. So that's really the only thing I see as a downfall. Everything else, awesome. Couldn't be better.
Do you, Tom, have any plans for improvements to your facility or your programming that we should, just be aware of or understand? Or
Not really. We've done a lot of stuff inside as of the past several years. We do have a patio and a deck that was built. I don't even know when that was built. That was when I was gone. I think it was maybe 8 years ago. Do you know, Steve? I honestly don't know.
That sounds about right. I would have said more like 6, but somewhere in that ballpark.
So as of recently, my plans are we're getting all new furniture for next year because we're going to be outside more. But we are looking, and I'm going to have to go to the village for this, but we're looking to rebuild it so it's more permanent and matches the building instead of looking like a lean-to, which is what I think it looks like. So we're going to make that as an improvement, hopefully in 22. That's the only thing I can think of for outside that we're really planning on. We have no space to put a pool in. I'd love that. But unfortunately, I can't tear the house down next door.
Oh.
Maybe someday, right?
Right, exactly. When you were talking about the parking and the need for a shuttle, that happens more in season for us when the beach is more heavily in use, because in the dead of winter, that's when you're able to have the valet park down in the beach parking lot. I just want to make sure I fully understand when that dynamic really happens for your side.
Yeah, actually, I would say this. During the winter, fall, spring, probably not really much of a problem. It's in the peak summer season. And honestly, I don't know if you know this, but even at the last minute, I can get the parking down there usually. Even the day of, I can do it if the weather is in climate. So we have rain or something. I would have called up Holly and said, hey, one time I actually did use it, but didn't ask her, and then I got yelled at for it. So I try to contact ahead of time. But when we have a nice day, yes, those days it's, really difficult.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
And when you go to the park during kind of your afternoon walks when you're working at the club, what types of routes do you typically take? Do you find any issues when you're crossing the street across Lake Avenue?
No, I think usually my route is I'm heading for the building that's over there to either talk to somebody or whatever, but I like the gardens up there. To tell you the truth, I've only been down at the beach maybe once. I'm Irish and I'm very white, so I don't like to be in the sun too much. So I will go to the, what's it called, Lakeview building or okay.
Center, yeah.
Yeah, I will take that walk and I'll walk through those gardens over there, which I love. Since I live in the city, it's kind of a nice break.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Tom, maybe it makes sense to pull up the map just to refer to different things if we need to. You're able to see us, right, Tom? Or
yes.
Yeah.
I forgot to bring my camera. That's why I'm on
okay.
no video.
Yeah, let me know when you can see the
Steve,
screen.
were you pointing at me like to be quiet or what?
No, Tom and I have been doing this dance of me turning on the ability of him to share, and I was very proud
okay.
that I remembered at the last meeting to do it, but this time I didn't.
Okay.
We've got an unspoken language.
I actually have a map here on my desk that I keep all the time.
Oh,
Because we've actually
go.
even done, I don't know if you know this, Steve, but we did our haunted hayride through the park 2 years in a row.
Yes,
Huge hit. So awesome. So much fun to do.
great.
I think we also had a couple of, we've had a couple of employee get-togethers in the end of season in the park. I think we had a grill out, not this year, obviously, but I think we did in 19.
Great.
Okay.
cool. Well, what is this haunted hayride? What does that look like?
If you take a look at the map, you see where it's kind of a kidney-shaped drive.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
We would pick up the people, excuse me, on the south side of the club. And by the way, we have like 500 people here that day. We pick them up on Lake Avenue there in a hay wagon. And then we take them down Michigan Avenue to the entrance by Sheridan Shores. And then we do that loop around. And in there, my staff, who are very creative, will put up some, I don't know, gargoyles and spooky stuff. And people will come out from the bushes, in costume. And It was great. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, that route right there. They get very excited about that, and the kids love it. The parents love it.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, that's a beautiful loop to take.
Yeah, and that time of year, it's pretty simple because the season has ended and we don't have any issues, and it works out perfectly. I think we've done it now 2 years. I think we did in 18 and 19, yeah, it's been great.
Any other
Oh.
things like that you do in the park?
Not too much. I think if and I may be wrong, but I think that our fitness trainers, I think they take their clients sometimes in the park. I think there might have been a class or two that's usually over here by closest to the club. I think that we have had the children's camp I think it's in August, where they've done a couple of events, some kind of, I don't know, superhero thing or something. I think that might have been in the park as well. I don't think this club utilizes the park as much as I would think they could, as far as that goes. This year, I think they did a little bit with the exercise because you couldn't be indoors.
Right.
And we were doing a
Sure.
lot on our deck and on our patio until, believe it or not, just this past week, we've been doing stuff on the deck almost every day in the morning. I wouldn't do it. It's too cold and it's dark. So they're troopers.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a testament to their gumption.
Yeah, as they're surrounded by heaters.
Sure.
That sounds good.
Your paddle courts are still going full bore, aren't they?
Oh yeah, the men's league just started up again this week. In fact, I from what I've heard, our paddle program is probably one of the strongest on the North Shore. We had some improvements done to the paddle courts this past summer, and the guy that was doing it, he does all the work all around, and he said he's never seen a club with such a busy active paddle program. They were playing pickleball during the summer as well.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, right now there is the sand volleyball court and the tennis courts on site. Are those types of activities that your membership would participate in?
We haven't that I know of. I think most of the members probably have, you have to get a pass for the park. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay. I think all of them have, they go to a lot of our members in the summertime, they will park at the club and go take their stuff down to the beach, which I never say anything. I hate it because we don't have enough parking as it is.
Tom, you're talking about your permanent patio. Have you got any pushback from the village? I mean, you're going to put in a hard surface patio where you have a wood deck now, right?
Well, we have two. We have a hard surface patio, and then we also have a wood deck that has a roof over it. So we're not expanding. What I'm doing is just rebuilding it so it doesn't look like it was slapped up at the last minute. So the pillars and all the structure are going to match the building. So it's going to be sandstone. It's going to match the building. It's going to look far, far, far better than it does.
It's going to be permanent. It's going to be permanent looking, yeah.
Well, it's kind of permanent now, but yeah. And we've worked with the village on, we have a curfew when we have to have everybody off the patio and the lights out. So we haven't had really haven't had too many issues. We do own the house next door, so that's helpful. And they seem great. They're members, so they don't really care. So yeah, it's been good.
It's good.
When the Wallace Bowl has concerts, do you ever have any kind of, special programming or anything with that, like special dinners or anything?
We have not, but we have talked about doing it. We were actually going to do it this past summer to attach, like, come have a cocktail and dinner or hors d'oeuvres for that walk over there, and then come back and have dessert and whatever. We were talking about doing that for 2020. Obviously, we couldn't do that, but I would love to incorporate that for the membership, which I think would be good for both the park and for us, actually.
Mhm.
I don't know if you ever saw the pictures from before World War I or II. There was a promenade on top of the water plant that the club had. Did you ever see that, Steve? I have to show you that picture. It's hilarious. There was a promenade. You could cross the street, and there was like this whole beautiful promenade on top of the roof of the water plant that members would use.
Wow.
Then during the Depression and the war, it got in disrepair and then disappeared.
It's probably similar to what was at Kenilworth. They had a really nice overlook and all that on top of their water plant.
Oh,
Still, yeah.
probably then, yeah.
Yeah.
Not quite as scenic at this point.
No. Well, there was when I was here before, there was no fence around the water plant. In fact, across the street from us was a bunch of scrub brush, trees and bushes, and somebody go down there, fall down that hill and disappear and never see them again.
Oh, wow.
In fact, I actually had somebody that did do that. After a wedding, they
Oh,
fell
man.
down the hill and never saw them again.
Oh, wow.
Man, that's wild. Well, the fence is helpful then.
Yeah.
So the fence must be like from 9/11, I'm assuming,
Yes.
the after effects. Yeah.
Right.
So you said you own that house next door to you to the north?
Yes.
Can't
So
picture
that-
that.
That was owned by a member. I think we purchased it back in the 70s. The member wanted us to purchase it, so we did. And it's kind of a buffer between us
Yeah.
and the other neighbors.
Yep. I can kind of picture it.
Yeah. Well, I've been in country clubs and I've been in this club, which is more of a city club. And I always thought it was kind of funny how everybody wants to live around or near the club, but they don't want any inconveniences like golf balls going in their yard or the noise.
Do you have any issues with the light spray from your paddle at night?
No, because we have an agreement. We shut those off. Off the top of my head, I can't tell you what time it is. So they're on a timer and they go off automatically. We had a couple issues a couple years ago with one of the neighbors, but we made sure the timers were set properly. That's all it really is. And so we have been sticking to that. The house next to us, obviously it impacts them more than anything, and they've never said anything. But they are members and they are renting from us. So
Yeah, good reason not. The only reason I asked that, I don't know if they are or they even can be dark sky compliant relative to some of these issues of lighting in the village. Because I play paddle at Winnetka and I play at your club. I think they go off at 10 or 10:30.
yeah,
But,
I can't remember the time, but yes, they do automatically go off.
Yeah, it's just that you like you stated, you're a city club. You're in the middle of a neighborhood. And most other clubs are not, and that's why I asked that question.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing we could do. I think it's kind of inconvenient sometimes because they go off a little early for some of the tournaments or the playoff or something. But so far we've been dealing with it. So
Yeah, good. Okay.
What's your general impression of this entire area closest to your club? There's the signage at the corner, the bird habitat. There's the slope with all sorts of trees, and then the maintenance building. I'm sure that a lot of it is visible from the club, and I was wondering if you had any impressions of that.
Actually, no, the maintenance building, I don't think you could actually even see it. If you can see that, that's probably from the Canterbury room, which is, was that southeast corner. But I had nobody ever say anything about it. You know, maybe I'm here too often, but I don't think I've even really noticed the maintenance building. I think the landscaping is nice. I mean, the park is beautiful. I like that you added all these gardens that weren't there back in the 90s. I don't think any of that really was there. I didn't know there was tennis courts down there. I never knew that.
Yeah, kind of tucked away.
Yeah. How many courts are there?
4?
I think it's 4. It might be 6. I'm going off the top of my head.
Does it get used very much?
Very heavily. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. How often do you have concerts, not 2020, but how many times do you have concerts a year in the Wallace Bowl?
We have Thursday through Saturday evenings, starting in June all the way through, I think, mid-August typically. But at the moment, internally, we're contemplating doing things a little differently there, taking a little more advantage of the space. It's such a unique space that we've been doing virtually the same thing there for decades, as far as the first 3 weekends are our musical, and then it's the ABBA revival, and then it's, you know, this, that, and the other thing. And so we're trying to get more creative, bring, you know, a little bit of newness to an otherwise old facility. So I can't say we're going to do it all exactly the same going forward.
Okay, sounds good. So my plan this year would be, I can't remember, you have a new guy taking Holly's place, I understand. Is that
correct?
right?
Yeah, you might know him. It's the fire chief, Ben Wozni.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, actually, the fire department was just here today. Huh.
I hope not with lights on.
No, well, yes, because the alarm went off, but for no reason.
Okay.
So I will probably reach out to him in the spring and hopefully bring him over here for lunch so can talk to him a little bit. I'm sure he understands how everything operates anyway. And then I can get a schedule from him of the activities going on in the Wallace Bowl and stuff. Yeah, that'd be great.
Great. Yeah, the schedule hasn't been developed yet, and historically the schedule hasn't been developed by the person in that position. It's actually someone over at our recreation center, but we are shifting those responsibilities to the lakefront. So between himself and another person we're hired kind of at the same time to be the number 2 in command, they will be kind of leading that charge into the future. So they may not have all the answers for you soon, but they will definitely be the ones in the end.
Okay, great. Look forward to that. Who would I talk to then, Steve? And this is, I was planning on pursuing to find out about the kayaking and, you know, something for the members preferred here, some kind of connection. I mean, we're called Michigan Shores Club, but we don't have any shores. So, you know, it was done in our survey and it was touched on again in 19. So would that be you, Steve, that I would talk to about some kind of, I don't know, reciprocity connection or something?
For sure. Yes, you could start with me and I'll pull in other people as need be. And it is a conversation I've already had once with board members that I know from years prior. But I'm more than happy to talk to you about it and express kind of our operational style and our concerns, but also maybe ways that we can partner and make it work. So yeah, definitely, I'm the one you want to contact.
Okay, so in a couple of months, maybe I can have you come over and have lunch in our new venue, which I love this. I've never had this. I've done this 30 years. I've seen everything except for a pandemic. So we spent all this money and time on our new venue, which is called the South End Cafe. It's stunning. It's beautiful. And it's completely different than the rest of the club. And we finished it in May, and then we couldn't open it. So now that we're open a little bit, but hopefully in a couple of months, I don't know, you or whoever, I would like to have you guys come over, have lunch, and see the place, and then we can talk about, I don't know, what kind of connection that we can do between the park and the club.
Happy to talk.
All right, cool.
Great.
What is Sheridan Shores part, is that separate from the park district?
Yes. Yeah, Sheridan Shore is its own separate entity club. Obviously has a lot of the same faces as the Harbor Association, and both the harbor itself and that building sit on MWRD land and are leased to now the Harbor Association. Both leases are with the Harbor Association, so but it's not at all part of the park district.
Yeah, I know that there were talk in the past about some kind of connection between Michigan Shores and Sheridan Shores, and you could have the wedding at Sheridan Shores and the reception at Michigan Shores, whatever. I thought that was kind of a good idea, but I think our members went a little crazy and said absolutely not.
North-south rivalry.
I've actually never been there. It doesn't it have a great view, I would think? I don't know.
It does. It has a very nice view, but it would not mirror your South End Cafe. Let's put it that way.
No, I've actually heard that, but that means maybe there would be an improvement. I don't know.
I will let you guys figure that out.
They've got the shores that you're missing in your program.
Yeah, I did hear that they actually have members bartend, so they take turns with members bartending, which I can't think of a worse scenario than that. One for you, one for me. What's that?
I think that's a sailor thing.
Yeah.
I think it is. You're right.
Yeah.
Well, this was super helpful, Tom. To the point of connecting back up, our process was we'll be coming back and sharing our ideas with everybody that we've met with and we've talked to. So there is no end to the conversation. If other ideas come up or thoughts come up, you can share them with us, share them with Steve. He'll get them to us. But we'll circle back with you probably within the next 2 months and start sharing some of our ideas that we're developing for options for the master plan.
Okay, great. I appreciate that. And honestly, I appreciate reaching out and asking the questions. And Steve, I'll hopefully contact you as soon as things are a little better, I guess, and see if we can meet up here and talk about some of those ideas and see what we can do.
Great. Sounds good.
All right.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you. Nice to meet all of you. Thank you
Tom.
very much. Appreciate it.
Take care.
Bye.
All right. I'm going to stop the recording.